You're watching Local Edition coming to you from Sacramento. I'm Brad Pomerance, joined by Carolyn Coleman. Carolyn is the Executive Director of the League of California Cities. And I want to speak with you about transportation funding. Recently, we had a bill pass, SB 1. Before we talk about what SB 1 does, take us back to the future, back to 1994, let's say, and how have we been funding transportation projects prior to SB 1?
Brad, thanks for having me. And like so many transportation systems across this country, the primary driver of transportation investment has been the gas tax.
The driver is gas tax.
Thank you for
but
that.
I'm bummed. Couldn't help it.
That's been the primary driver, and for the state of California, it has not been increased since 1994.
And let's be very clear on that, because we have 1994 dollars playing out through that decade, the last decade into this decade, no inflation kickers. And during that time, you know better than I, we have seen more fuel-efficient vehicles hit the roads. We've seen some vehicles with no gasoline tank in them.
Right.
And so we have no inflation kickers, more fuel-efficient vehicles. And what did that bring us?
Well, it brings us decrease in purchasing power.
Clearly.
I mean, that's the way that formula works. And in addition to declining purchasing power, our roads and our bridges and our streets have continued to decline in terms of the state of repair.
And let's be very specific, because the league was out front on this. And these figures I've been hearing in my dreams, hearing in my nightmares, because you say it often. We know that our local roads needed repairs close to $80 billion, our state roads close to $60 billion. All deferred maintenance that in some ways one could argue was a tax on the people, because as they're driving over these roads, what's happening?
Well, what's happening when you drive over these roads is you're hitting potholes, which is resulting in, on average, I think the number is $760 of damage.
That's the number.
To your car.
$762 to be exact.
So you're really still paying for the condition of these roads. You're just not getting good roads or roads in good condition for that investment.
So let's talk about SB 1. I mean, really a mighty fight. I take no position, but I congratulate you on the success of SB 1. I mean, this bill has been years in the making. It needed a 2/3 vote. In the end, the legislature did pass it with 2/3. A Republican jumped on board, a couple Democrats jumped off board.
Right.
But talk to us about what SB 1 will do.
SB 1 is an incredibly robust transportation program for this state. It increases the investment in our transportation network, not only at the local level, but also at the state level. It is a $5.2 billion package of investments.
Per year,
per year. I say per year with no sunset, and also with an index to inflation.
And I think that, if I may, is critical for those that want to see a sustainable gas tax, because like we just said, the 94 gas tax had no COLA, should we call it?
Right, and this ensures that $1 today is $1 tomorrow for these investments. About $1.5 billion a year of that $5.2 billion will go directly to cities and towns.
Which is your priority.
Which is my priority, and why city leaders across this great state fought so hard in support of an amazingly bipartisan package. And I want to underscore that it was a bipartisan package that had the support of not only the governor, but the Speaker Pro Tem, as well as the Speaker, and then, of course, Senator Bell and Assemblymember Frazier, who were the key
and then you
champions
got your
this.
bipartisanship by having Mr. Cannella jump on board.
Absolutely.
But be that as it may, let's talk about specifics, because it does seem as if the drafters of the legislation were looking at kind of 21st century transportation. We see an increase in the gas tax for traditional vehicles, increase for diesel vehicles. We see some sales tax adjustments. We see some VLF adjustments. We also see, and I think this was important to many, that cars that are electric will have a kicker. Because the reality is they're using the roads, but they weren't paying the gas tax
Right,
because
right.
they didn't use gas.
Well, and I think, that's why I use the term, it's not only a robust package, but it really modernizes the state's approach to infrastructure investment by recognizing that there are different technologies today.
Right.
And as I think it's going to happen, there'll be different technologies tomorrow, and we need to keep up with that.
I want to talk about the timeline for this. As you may remember, in 2014, the voters passed what was known as, I think it was Proposition 1 back then, and that was the water bond. And that was quite bipartisan. The voters were very generous, and $7.545 billion. To date, we haven't seen any construction begin on the water bond, and that's frustrated some folks. My gut tells me if we don't see construction on roads and bridges, metaphorically speaking, with regard to the gas tax pretty darn quickly, people are going to say, why am I paying so much more in taxes? So do you have a sense as to the timeline on these types of projects?
We want to see projects too. That would be a fair criticism that
Right.
I'm paying taxes and I'm not getting the investment that we
Right.
were assured. So in the governor's recent budget
Right.
revision,
The May Revise, as we
the May
call it.
Revise, you will see these dollars already being put to work. I've been over the last several weeks
Right.
in conversations outside of Sacramento with city officials who are telling me they're prepared. They're not only putting the dollars in their budgets, but many of them also have lists of projects that are ready to go.
Right, and your office provided me with a list of communities that already have their wish list
Yeah.
set forward. We have Corona that's ready to go, Moreno Valley, Norco, Paris, Eastvale. These are in the Inland Empire. They got a few sweeteners.
And I could
Yeah.
show you a list from
Right, but-
every jurisdiction
but,
in this state.
Riverside, Fresno, Torrance. I mean, the list goes on. Palos Verdes Estates, Orange County, Rancho Cordova. So when you look at these lists, how quickly do you know? I mean, maybe we don't know yet, but how quickly are we going to see? Literally, the guys with what do they call it? The jackhammers.
Well, certainly every community is different,
Right.
but I think what this list tells us that they are ready to go, and I think we'll see shovels in the ground this year.
Very fair.
On these projects.
Opposition has surfaced behind SB 1, a lot of it coming from the Republican Party. We do see efforts to recall a member of the Senate who voted in favor. He's in a swing seat. That's Josh Newman. We see efforts to put on the ballot a repeal of this. What do you make of these rumblings, the opposition?
Well, I think it's the natural consequence of the legislative process. Certainly, this was not necessarily an easy vote, but I'd also argue that politics isn't always about an easy vote. These were votes about the future of the economy and this state, and I respect that not everyone agreed with it.
Right.
I can tell you from the league's perspective,
Please.
our job right now is to make sure that the dollars are protected for the transportation investments that have been promised.
And in our final moments, it's somewhat ironic that Senator Newman is carrying the legislation to create a constitutional amendment to protect those dollars, and yet
Yeah.
he is subject to recall, but we don't know if that's going to qualify. We'll see.
Right,
Okay, I
right.
want to thank you so much for
You're
joining us.
welcome.
We always enjoy having you on
Thank
the program.
you.
She is Carolyn Coleman. She is the Executive Director of the League of California Cities. We're coming to you from Sacramento today. My name is Brad Pomerance. I'm so glad you're with us on Local Edition.